You know how just about every single episode in the last week and a half, we basically have been like, Michigan football recruiting is on a heater. Sharon Moore's killing it. Well, it's even more so since we last talked. Let's talk about the commitments of Carter Meadows, Markel, Dabney, and Malakai Lee. We're going to do it right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday. We are back in doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you so much to all of you who make us your first listen, and thank you to our everydayers who check out our show every day. We're going to talk, obviously. We're going to start out with Carter Meadows. Then we're going to get into Malakai Lee and Markel Dabney in the second segment. And after that, we will talk about the upside of the class, where it goes from here. It's just going to continue, right? Like, it's going to be every show at this point until Michigan has 70 commitments, because that's how it feels at this point. Let's talk about the news that just broke about a half hour ago. And we would have done this a little earlier, but had to get all of the writing aspect covered and done. But huge news for Michigan. The hype started growing on Saturday with morning when Steve Wiltfong, we're gonna have to deal with Zuri barking a lot this show. There's fireworks in the background and she loves those things. Which there's fireworks happening on this show. No, nice segue. I mean, it was one of those things where Steve Wiltfong, who is the best of the best out there, put in and I say that knowing Steve personally, by the way. He was instrumental in me being in this business. But he put in the prediction for Carter Meadows to end up choosing Michigan, much to the chagrin of those in Columbus who were so confident coming out of the official visit. Oh, they're going to spend money. It's a need. Why would you choose the team that's been cheating? Right. Okay. But alas, they did not win. Carter Meadows ends up shutting it down at 4 p.m. today, choosing Michigan. Yet another elite edge rusher, number 6 overall by On3. Number 34 overall at 24/7 Sports. It just an absolute game-changing type of commitment. I haven't looked at. I know CBS does its own little thing, but where it does like commitment impact score. I guarantee this one will be considered game changer. Now, he is, for being a 5-star, still a little bit of a project, right? Like, he is not a plug and play. He's got some room to grow, right? He's 6 foot 6.5 and 225 pounds. So obviously he's got room to grow in that body. Now, he is more ready to go than like Lugard Adekpayi, who has kind of a similar body type, or at least he did at that time. But I think that there's a much higher ceiling for Carter Meadows. And it also helps to like, when you have some of the outstanding prospects that Michigan has out there, it helps to get those types of guys. And I'm not just talking about the other, there's others, especially in the DMV or in the surrounding region. Of course, we think of Savion Hyder, but like, now Michigan has 3 of the 4 from the picture, right? Like, that was the thing when people were coming out of Victor's Weekend. They had a 4 linemen in a picture with one who was committed in Tariq Boney, and it was like, can they go 4 for 4? Well, now they've got 3 of 4. They've got, obviously, Boney was already committed. They added Titan Davis. Now they've got Carter Meadows, and then the other one is South Carolina native Julian Walker. Can they get him? I feel like that's trending in a very positive direction. That would give Michigan 4 edge rushers in the class. Obviously, Titan Davis is not an edge rusher. Mikhail Blade would be the other one that is in there. But they are just absolutely dominating when it comes to trench recruiting at this point. Now, yeah, you'd love to still see a little bit more from that. I don't want to say from the offensive side of the ball. You still want to see, because like it's still going to finish as like a class that's like you just salivate over. But it's kind of surprising that there aren't more that like the Felix Ojos and the Kelvin Obot. They both visited, but it still feels like both will end elsewhere. It's kind of surprising, but nonetheless, to be able to get those types of edge rushers, to get a Carter Meadows, to go out and say, like, we're going to go get one of the best in the country. We're going to get a guy that is absolutely going to be a star here because we've got the track record of development. I mean, that's huge. Like, this was a conversation that I was having with I think it was my brother in metal, Michael Wolf, that I was talking about with this on Friday. The thing about Michigan is if you're, like we talked about Michigan being a little bit of a developmental program to some degree, but you don't want to stay in that world, right? Like, I know it's weird to say Michigan's a developmental program, but like there are the schools that have just long gotten the 5 stars, right? That's just what they do, right? Like, and most of them have gone through bad periods as well, right? Like, Texas and Alabama have had down periods. Ohio State kind of hasn't, for going back to like the 1950s. I mean, aside from maybe like a disappointing year or two, Ohio State's just continued to be elite. But Michigan losses notwithstanding, of course. But Michigan's a little bit more developmental. That's why you see some classes that end up being more 15th to 20th. I'm not saying it's like they're not like Rutgers out there. But the thing is when you're in that spot, you don't want to stay there. What you want to do is be able to land guys like this. And then they also have to produce and become like those types of guys that everyone's talking about in the end and go to the NFL, be a first round pick. And then you can kind of consistently get those top tier players, right? Like Ohio State was starting to get the wide receivers in the tail end of the 2010s, right? Like the latter half, but like they were still very much a running football team. But they still were they were really getting elite wide receivers, but they weren't as elite as the ones they're getting now. So that's what you do. You get to a place where it's like hey, we churn out defensive linemen, we churn out edge rushers. You're gonna want to come here. We churn out defensive tackles. This is where you're gonna want to come. If you're a 3-star, we're gonna turn you into a first round pick. That's what we do. And then you start to get the higher end talent. And then you just start to become a little bit more of a mainstay. That was kind of the problem with Michigan State. Michigan State's clearly a developmental program, right? And Mark D'Antonio started being able to get really good, started to really develop. But then when he started to have really good classes, they didn't come together. And that was where things started to fall down. Michigan's had some of that problem itself in the relatively early Jim Harbaugh era. Like, look at the 16 and 17 classes. Top 5, 6, 7 types did not come together, did not mature enough to become it. The 2018 class, which was the worst of his tenure at that point, ended up being the best by a wide margin. So there's still a lot of room to grow. And getting Carter Meadows, that's a huge part where you can start selling that. And then you can start selling Bryce Underwood. You start selling, like, this is the thing. You want better quarterbacks and receivers? Well, you better do a heck of a lot with what you've got there. Michigan's already done it with the defensive line. Now it finally kind of comes to fruition because they just weirdly don't get a lot of 5-star edge rushers. So huge for Michigan. Let's talk about Malakai Lee and Markel Dabney, who committed on Friday. Within like 10 minutes of each other, that was an insane moment. We're going to get to them here in just a moment. But before we do, have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize, hey, I want to be in the stands. Weather like today, maybe you do. Maybe it's a little too hot. I don't know. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it absolutely possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Particularly, love the Tigers. If you're in this area, you probably do too. Game Time has last minute tickets and zone deals for big savings, like 10% off. And there's exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Michigan football is on a heater, and you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater. I think I'm going to watch The Hangover today. I don't know. I started playing Death Stranding. I still have some yard work to do. Been hitting the range lately, and man, I am not good at all. I've got a golf lesson tomorrow, so hopefully we can fix some things. Just complete inconsistency. But mark my words, this time next year, I'm gonna meet a bunch of y'all at some of these golf outings, and I'm gonna be good. I'm not gonna be embarrassed. I'm gonna be good. It's how I roll. I usually am terrible at something. Like, I'm usually never a natural. I'm terrible. And then before you know it, I'm good. So that's the hope. This hopefully is our last show for a little while doing single camera. I just want to get it out as fast as possible. It takes like an extra hour and a half, 2 hours to do the multi-camera setup. So if you like the multi-cam setup, it's not gone forever. It's just the ones that we want to try to get out fast. And we thought about doing one on Friday, but there just kept on being stuff to write about. First, we were all very well prepared for Malakai Lee to make the commitment. He started getting predictions and everything as we sat there and looked at this, was it 7:30 local time or 5? I think it was 7:30. And then about 5 minutes before he's set to go live on 24/7 Sports, Markel Dabney, who we'd been waiting on for a week, but then he went on a cruise. Thankfully, I don't think it was the same cruise as the one that was portrayed in the Netflix documentary. He ends up committing. He had to have known, right? Like, because it's one of those things where it's like, man, your thunder is not going to last very long. But maybe that's how he prefers it. I don't know. But getting Markel Dabney first, SMU commit, who flips over. He's a 3-star across the board, but he's one of those like priority 3 stars. He's like one of those ones that I don't want to project like Mikey Sainer still onto him. But kind of that same, maybe not as high, but like that same, like Chase Taylor might be a good one to know. I'm going to shoot my shot with something here and tell you that you should be on the watch out for Chase Taylor. Okay. Based off of some conversations I've had with people who have seen him, you should watch out for Chase Taylor. And that's kind of what they feel like they've gotten in Markel Dabney, is a guy that, yeah, he's a 3-star, but he might be a 3-star to you, but he might be closer to a 5-star to us. That's kind of, I think, how Michigan feels about it. So that is huge to be able to get him. And I understand, like, you might turn your nose down on the idea of, like, they had to battle SMU. Like, SMU? But keep in mind, SMU was just in the college football playoff, right? Like, they might not have the overall name cachet, but this is a team that did what Michigan did not do last year. And I understand Michigan was in the playoff when it was smaller for 3 straight years, won a national championship. For some of these kids, the shine wears off to some degree. And, at the same time, the shine wears up. If you see a school, and SMU is a cool little place, man. I've walked around that stadium. My hotel was right across the street from it when Michigan played Florida in 2017. So that morning I went and walked around their campus, checked out their stadium. It's a very cool place. So I can get it. But obviously Michigan's a completely different deal. So, but still, huge win. Not as big as getting Malakai Lee, who, again, we told you, like, he said that he decided that he figured it out on the plane ride home. To me, that's one of those things. It's remember, and again, to harken back to Steve Wiltfong. I remember having this, I've said this on the show before, but bears repeating. I remember having this conversation with Steve Wiltfong after the Army All-American game in 2016. We were walking from, because I hadn't officially been hired by 24/7 Sports yet, but I was there freelancing for them for the week of the Army All-American Bowl. And was walking out of the Alamo Dome on the bridge that connected our hotel to the Alamo Dome. And we're talking about Michigan football recruiting. And he says, well, Lavert Hill's going to go blue. And I was like, really? You think so? Because like right now it kind of, he just decommitted from Penn State. He's got these other offers. Michigan State's right there, like some of these others. And he's like, listen, he might not know right now. If you asked him and you could get an honest answer, he might not know right now that he's going to commit to Michigan, but he's going to. Sometimes you just know before the commit does, before the recruit does. To me, that's what Malakai Lee was. He had been to Ann Arbor more than anywhere else. Michigan been out to visit him more than anyone else. And as much as like, the SEC is looming large, the fact that it was always Michigan and one other school, not Georgia and Texas or Alabama and Georgia. It was always Texas and Michigan, Alabama and Michigan. That kind of gave me the feeling, like, because those are just the types of tea leaves you can read. It's kind of similar to like when you see like, in political campaigns. I'm going to give you a little tip here. As someone who worked very, very briefly in politics. If you see that the day before an election, the candidate or one of the highest end delegate types of people, when I say delegate, I mean like, someone who's like, I'm trying, I want to be fair here. Like if like Barack Obama or, I want to say Mitt Romney. I'm just trying to think of names. But anyway, if like one of those types are in your state, like Mitt Romney wouldn't be that for the GOP at this point. But if like you see like one of the like got people that would be like a headliner at like the national conventions in in a swing state the night before the election or the day before the election, they don't feel good about where they're at, right? Like those are tea leaves that you can kind of read. Okay. So kind of similar that with Malakai Lee, and gigantic to be able to get again a top 100 type of guy, high end 4-star behemoth outside guy on the offensive line. Now it's like, think about like where they're at the moment, offensive line wise, from the last like couple classes, because 2 classes ago, we were talking about like, man, what a haul. And now we're sitting there looking at like, like people were celebrating, and I still don't think that they were wrong, right? Because these guys certainly, we'll see what they end up doing in their career. But like when Luke Hamilton and Ben Roebuck, 2 guys that no one is talking about right now, committed to Michigan, people are like, oh, look at what Michigan is doing on the offensive line. Look at this recruiting. This is incredible. And then this last year made you forget all about it because they got Andrew Babalola, Ty Haywood, Avery Gash, and Caden Strayhorn. Now you've got Bear McWhorter, who was very celebrated at the moment and still should be celebrated for his efforts on the recruiting trail, him and his family. And then you add Marky Walbridge, who might not be as highly rated, but was certainly courted by some of the top schools in the country. And then to go get a guy who was down to only top schools in the country. That's massive. That is absolutely massive. Like the future is so bright for Michigan line play. Now I think the next step is to more consistently get the Babalola Haywood types, right? And I mean, Malakai Lee's probably there too, right? Like he feels like he's going to be one that could be a 5-star, could be. You'd love to see it on paper. I know I'm stargazing a little bit, which is something I always caution you against. But I mean, it is just a massive pickup for Michigan and an incredible week of recruiting. Let's talk about what happened and what will happen or might happen. Let's say might. We're going to do that here in just a moment. Six commitments in 6 days. Is that where we're at? I think so. Titan Davis on Monday, Zion Robinson and Marky Walbridge on Wednesday, Malakai Lee, Markel Dabney on Friday, and Carter Meadows on Saturday. Might make it 7 for 7 with Andre Clark deciding tomorrow afternoon. I think at 2:30 p.m. Then you've got Donovan Webb deciding 2 days later. Then you've got John Turntine and Calvin Russell deciding 2 days later. And then I mean it's just, or I think Russell's the next day. I don't remember. I think he might be the 5th. Yeah, he's the 5th. There's 2 on July 4th, but still. I mean, this class, you see why I said don't worry. I know there's people who say, well, there was reason to worry then. Okay. If that's what you want to live in, if you want to live in the world where it's like, I'm going to be concerned at the moment because it's not going the way that my expectations are without ignoring precedent, then be my guest. I'm just telling you, you can relax a little bit. That said, this is going better than I still thought. This is very similar to late June, but maybe better. We'll see how it turns out, because I was looking at, I thought it was like 6 commitments. I think I wrote 6 stories, and it was 4 commitments on June 23rd, 2019. None of the 4 ended up really doing anything for Michigan. It was William Mohan was the first to commit. Then Aaron Lewis, Jordan Morant ended up committing, I think, that day. But like they had like this stretch in like 3 days where they got like 6 or 7 guys. What ended up being more impressive was it was like a week later, when in like a 3-day stretch, they got Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, Chris Jenkins. That was a little bit more, what ended up being more impressive in that very class. This kind of has that similar feel where it just feels like they're adding guys that absolutely can help this team. And absolutely, like, I would be surprised if we saw so many flaming out. But at the same time, I feel like they've got a better team in terms of scouting and development than what they had at that moment, right? There were a lot of changes that happened, in that time frame. From, you saw some of those guys in 2020, and a lot of them were gone by 2021. Some of them didn't even last into 2020. Aaron Lewis he made it to campus and lasted not long before he ended up going to Rutgers. So that's where it feels like. But think about this. You got, Travis Johnson is one of the ones deciding on July 4th. There's 2 receivers still out there, 4-star and a 5-star. Travis Johnson absolutely balled out according to EJ Holland over at OT7. Then you got Calvin Russell, who's, again, the 5-star, the big fish, that it feels like that's who Michigan's been swinging for. Apparently, it seems that it's a Michigan-Syracuse battle at this point. So we'll see. Will they get John Turntine? That's a big question. That one kind of feels very up in the air. Feels like they'll get Andre Clark and Donovan Webb. And then, there's the other big names that are out there. There's some hype behind Devon Benjamin. I don't really know. I've seen, I guess, some Steve Wiltfong stuff, but I don't know 100% where that's coming from. We'll see about one of the guys that I think that you should keep your eye on, based off of conversations I had, is Braden Rouse. I think you should keep your eye on him. I think that's probably Michigan's top linebacker target overall. Nick Abrams is set to decide in mid-July. That's still plenty of time for Michigan to kind of right the ship after what seemed like they were doing a really good job. Let's see, who else do we, obviously there's Savion Hyder, right? Like, you've still got like some pretty big fish out there. This does have the potential to be a top 5 class yet again. And also, like, I wrote about Devon Benjamin and I wrote about Celesi Moa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right. You can correct me if you want. I do appreciate the person who came on Instagram to let me know it's not Kamehameha. It's Kamehameha. That makes sense. That sounds more like a place. I was going more with what it looked like for the high school of Malakai Lee. But I think that there are so many names. Could this class reach the 30? It almost feels like it. So we'll see. I do want to address, before we sign off for this Sunday, address some part. I've seen some kind of say, like, should Michigan drop kind of the lower end of the class? No, they shouldn't. In large part, too, because, like, just because their recruiting ranking is what it is, doesn't mean, A, Michigan doesn't have faith in what they can do, and B, like, are you really going to tell, like, Tariq Boney or Jalen Pyle, who are, like, statistically down near the bottom without being specialists, guys who have been, like, actively recruiting, that are, like getting, like, really playing a massive part in helping the recruiting program out, right? Like, I'm not just saying that is what is happening. You're going to tell them thanks but no thanks? No, I don't think you're going to do that. especially Michigan. So you figure it out. That's what you do. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Plan is to be back Monday, probably talking more recruiting because that's just where we are. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.